got surprise visits from emergency inspectors, ultimately ending in orders to shut down.
We are checking with the health authorities in those communities.
We're talking trays of uncovered meats holding at 52 degrees, bugs crawling on food cutting boards.
Every single day, over 37 million Americans walk into their local Walmart completely unaware that they are participating in a multi-billion-dollar laboratory experiment orchestrated by tech billionaires like Bill Gates. You see these plant-based packages sitting right next to the real natural beef. They are covered in bright green labels promising a heart-healthy and environmentally friendly choice. We are instructed by the global elite that we must transition to 100% synthetic meat to save the planet. But when you look past the clever marketing, you are not buying health. You are paying up to $15 a pound for a compressed block of genetically modified soy, highly inflammatory industrial seed oils, and a synthetic blood compound artificially generated from genetically engineered yeast. You might think simply putting these fake meats back on the shelf is enough to protect your family, but the ultimate legal loophole they use to poison your plate, which I will expose at the very end of this countdown, will permanently shatter your trust in the American food system. This is not just about a bad meal. This is about absolute control over what goes into your body. The global elite and massive corporations are actively working to replace your natural diet with highly processed patented chemicals. They know they cannot monopolize nature, but they can definitely monopolize a laboratory. In this video, I am going to expose the exact 5 worst plant-based burgers hiding in plain sight at your local grocery store. I will break down the exact industrial ingredients they are using to deceive you into thinking you are making a healthy choice. Finally, I will show you the 3 safest and most natural alternatives you should be buying instead to protect your family. You need to pay close attention to the #1 worst brand on this list, because the bizarre chemical they use to make their fake meat bleed is absolutely terrifying. Once you hear what it actually is, you will never look at a burger the same way again. Listen until the very end of this video to discover the shocking secret they are desperately trying to hide on the back of the nutrition label. The first brand on our list of the absolute worst plant-based products is the highly celebrated Impossible Burger. You have probably seen this exact product proudly displayed at your local Walmart, marketed heavily as a miracle of modern science that looks, cooks, and tastes exactly like real beef. Millions of Americans trust this bright green package because it promises a healthier heart and a cleaner planet without forcing you to give up your favorite meals. But the reality hiding inside this package is a terrifying leap into unnatural industrial chemistry. The real problem with the Impossible Burger is exactly how they achieve that realistic bleeding meat experience. To make a compressed block of plants bleed like a real animal, the company relies on a synthetic compound called soy leghemoglobin, commonly known as heme. Instead of sourcing this naturally, they genetically engineer a specific type of yeast, inject it with soy DNA, and ferment it in massive industrial vats. You are essentially eating a genetically modified laboratory creation that has never existed in the human diet before this current decade. Consuming these highly processed, laboratory-fermented compounds introduces completely unknown long-term risks to your digestive system and overall health. It is deeply frustrating to realize that families are paying premium prices to be unsuspecting architects for billionaire-funded science experiments. You are not buying a natural plant to nourish your body. You are buying a patented chemical imitation designed to generate massive corporate profits. As shocking as this laboratory-grown blood might be, it is absolutely nothing compared to the deceptive trap waiting for you with our next brand. The second worst plant-based burger on the market completely avoids the genetically modified yeast, but it replaces it with an inflammatory ingredient so toxic that it will make you question how the Food Administration ever approved it for human consumption. Listen to the very end of this next breakdown, because the secret hidden deep inside their nutrition label will leave you completely speechless. The second brand on our list of the worst plant-based products is the incredibly popular Beyond Meat burger. When you walk down the freezer aisle at Target or Walmart, their packaging proudly boasts that they are completely free from genetically modified organisms and soy. This clever marketing tactic instantly makes you feel like you are making the safest possible choice for your body and the environment. Millions of health-conscious shoppers trust this brand to deliver a clean, natural, and highly nutritious alternative to traditional beef. But the real problem is what this corporation actually uses to hold their artificial meat together once they remove those other ingredients. Instead of using whole vegetables, they pack their patties with highly refined canola oil, which is an industrial seed oil known to cause severe chronic inflammation. Furthermore, to make this heavily processed mixture taste remotely like real food, they inject it with an absolutely staggering amount of sodium. A single serving contains nearly 400 milligrams of salt, which is dangerously high for a product marketed specifically as a heart-healthy choice. Consuming this extreme level of sodium and inflammatory oil on a regular basis directly contributes to high blood pressure, arterial damage, and long-term cardiovascular disease. It is incredibly deceptive that a company can market a sodium bomb as a medical miracle simply because it does not contain animal products. You are genuinely trying to protect your heart, but you are unknowingly feeding it the exact industrial chemicals that slowly destroy it from the inside out. This product is not a health food. It is a highly processed chemical trap hiding behind a green leaf on the label. That deceitful marketing would be bad enough, but the story gets significantly worse when we look at our third brand. The next company on our warning list is actually one of the oldest and most trusted vegetarian brands in the entire country, but their manufacturing process is hiding a dark secret. They use a highly volatile chemical solvent, originally derived from petroleum, to extract the protein for their artificial meat. Listen closely to the next section, because the shocking truth about how this famous brand processes their ingredients will make you want to empty your freezer immediately. The third brand on our absolute worst list is Boca Burgers, a company currently owned by the massive Kraft Heinz Corporation. Millions of Americans have trusted this specific brand for decades because it was one of the original pioneers of the modern vegetarian movement. Shoppers confidently place these familiar red boxes into their Walmart shopping carts, genuinely believing they are making a safe, traditional, and health-conscious choice. However, the reality of how this legacy brand currently manufactures its products is a masterclass in chemical deception. To create the dense texture of their artificial meat, they heavily rely on soy protein isolate, which is an incredibly refined and highly processed industrial ingredient. The genuinely horrifying truth lies in the exact chemical extraction process used to isolate this specific protein from the original soybean. Industrial factories soak the soybeans in a highly volatile chemical solvent called hexane, which is actually a neurotoxic byproduct of standard gasoline refining. Consuming even trace amounts of this petroleum-derived solvent on a regular basis introduces severe long-term risks to your nervous system and your overall cellular health. It is deeply disturbing to realize that a brand heavily marketed toward health-conscious families is utilizing an industrial petroleum byproduct simply to save money on manufacturing costs. You are essentially eating a chemically treated sponge, not a nutritious earth-grown vegetable patty. You are unknowingly trading your family's long-term health for a multinational corporation's quarterly profit margin. While eating petroleum byproducts is truly horrifying, the fourth brand on our warning list takes the deception to an entirely different level of psychological manipulation. The next company hides behind the peaceful imagery of a beautiful green farm, but their ingredient list resembles a toxic binding glue rather than actual human food. We'll make sure you listen closely to the ultimate truth about our number 5 brand, because the final trap Walmart has set for your wallet will make you absolutely furious. The fourth brand on our list of the worst plant-based offenders is MorningStar Farms, a subsidiary of the massive Kellogg Corporation. When you look at their packaging, you are immediately greeted by the peaceful imagery of a vibrant green farm and a bright sunrise. This carefully calculated marketing design tricks millions of families into believing they are purchasing wholesome, earth-grown vegetables straight from the harvest. Shoppers fill their freezers with these products under the false impression that they are providing a clean, natural, and highly nutritious meal for their children. However, the reality inside the box is a stark contrast to that beautiful agricultural facade. If you actually take the time to read the back of the package, the ingredient list reads more like a complex chemical dictionary than a recipe for human food. Instead of whole plants, this corporation relies on an enormous amount of industrial fillers, synthetic binders, and highly processed gums to hold their artificial meat together. They are essentially using chemical glue to create the illusion of a solid burger patty out of cheap, refined agricultural waste. Consuming these highly processed industrial binders on a regular basis places an immense burden on your digestive system. Over time, these artificial additives can severely disrupt your gut microbiome, leading to chronic inflammation and long-term gastrointestinal distress. It is completely unethical that a multi-billion-dollar corporation is allowed to disguise a highly processed chemical block as a fresh farm product. You are not feeding your body natural nutrients. You are slowly destroying your gut health to maximize the profit margins of a massive food conglomerate. While consuming industrial binding glue is a terrible choice for your health, the final brand on our worst list represents the ultimate betrayal of the American consumer. The fifth and most dangerous plant-based burger is actually produced by the very supermarket you are standing inside, and they use a predatory pricing strategy to poison the most vulnerable families. Pay close attention to the dark truth behind this final brand, because their master plan to replace your natural food with cheap laboratory chemicals will leave you absolutely furious. The fifth and absolute worst plant-based brand on our warning list is the great value line of synthetic patties created and sold exclusively by Walmart. When families are desperately struggling with massive inflation and rising grocery costs, they naturally gravitate toward these familiar, budget-friendly white boxes in the freezer aisle. Walmart aggressively markets this specific line as an affordable way for everyday Americans to feed their children a healthy, modern diet without completely draining their bank accounts. Shoppers genuinely believe that the retail giant is finally democratizing nutrition and making plant-based eating accessible to the working class. However, the horrifying reality of this generic brand is that it represents the ultimate predatory pricing trap designed to poison vulnerable households. Because they need to keep the retail price artificially low, Walmart constructs these patties using the absolute cheapest, lowest grade industrial soy protein and synthetic flavorings available on the global market. Instead of actual food, you are feeding your family a compressed disc of heavily processed chemical waste that has been engineered to merely simulate the taste of real beef. They are essentially exploiting the financial desperation of the American consumer to clear out industrial agricultural byproducts and maximize their corporate revenue. Feeding your children these bottom-tier synthetic chemicals completely derails their metabolic health and exposes them to an unprecedented level of artificial preservatives. It is a profound betrayal that the exact corporation claiming to help families save money is simultaneously loading their bodies with the cheapest, most inflammatory toxins allowed by law. You are not buying a discounted family meal. You are buying a heavily subsidized chemical experiment that will eventually cost you thousands of dollars in medical bills. This represents the absolute darkest side of the modern corporate food monopoly operating right inside your neighborhood. Fortunately, you do not have to surrender your health to these predatory billionaires and their synthetic laboratory creations. There are still safe, genuinely healthy, and completely natural options available right now that you can feed your family with total confidence. Listen closely to the final section of this broadcast, because the upcoming shocking truth about the legal labeling loopholes will completely change the way you read ingredients. Keep watching to discover the exact 3 brands you must buy to protect your home and the ultimate secret they never want you to know. Escaping this corporate food trap is actually much simpler than these massive retail companies want you to believe. The absolute best choice for your body and the natural environment is purchasing 100% grass-fed organic beef directly from local farmers or trusted butchers. Real beef contains a massive amount of bioavailable nutrients, essential amino acids, and healthy fats that your human metabolism naturally recognizes and digests completely easily. By choosing single-ingredient natural foods, you are entirely avoiding the inflammatory seed oils and synthetic laboratory chemicals hiding inside those bright green supermarket packages. If you truly want to maintain a strict vegetarian diet, you must ignore the synthetic meat aisle entirely and look for traditional vegetable patties instead. Brands like Dr. Praeger's and Hilarious create their products using whole organic ingredients like black beans, sweet potatoes, and natural quinoa that you can actually pronounce. These honest companies completely refuse to use petroleum-based solvents or genetically modified yeast to artificially trick your taste buds. They provide genuine earth-grown nutrition without attempting to scientifically mimic the bleeding texture of a real animal carcass. The ultimate defense against this aggressive corporate manipulation is taking complete control of your own kitchen and preparing your meals entirely from scratch. You can easily blend black beans, fresh onions, and natural organic spices at home to create a delicious and incredibly healthy burger for a tiny fraction of the retail price. When you prepare your own family meals, you hold the absolute power to reject every single industrial chemical the food industry tries to force upon you. Listen extremely closely to the final conclusion of this documentary, because the ultimate strategy to expose their hidden labels will permanently protect your entire family. The ultimate secret these massive food corporations use to trap you is a deliberate legal loophole hidden directly inside the phrase plant-based. Under current federal regulations, companies are legally allowed to classify highly processed chemical isolates and synthetic industrial solvents as natural plant ingredients. They continuously manipulate the law to disguise their profitable laboratory experiments as wholesome agricultural products. Your physical body is absolutely not a testing ground for tech billionaires to experiment with synthetic blood and inflammatory seed oils. You must take control of your own health today by completely rejecting these artificial corporate creations and returning to natural whole foods. If this investigation opened your eyes to the truth, please subscribe to this channel and share this vital documentary with your family right now. Thanks for watching.